people are traveling on the expressway. Jumping back to the brewery, and this is affecting the original Outlot A of Block 3, because of the trucks that are needed to service the brewery, there are plans to reconstruct an access drive that is technically off property, but is in the location of where the original 177th Drive was that was serving the apartment complex. That former street, now access drive or proposed access drive, was always on INDOT property within the interchange, and basically it's to reconstruct it on there. As that access drive meets up with Carlson Drive, it will cross into the original outlot, basically bisecting it, and so then there will be two separate outlots created for the remaining property. Those two outlets, based on how they were acquired through condemnation, do have to remain as open space, and as to what exactly that means and what's going to be put on there, that is yet to be determined, but nonetheless, no commercial structures or that type of stuff can occur on those lots. There's some outstanding issues, and we had a discussion with the Redevelopment Commission attorney this afternoon. The actual language of the no-build easement has not been finalized, but is very close. There's going to be a cross-access easement that will fall on Lot 2 that will benefit Lot 3. The need for that is because of when the street was constructed, there were certain curb cuts that were preset, and that is to allow the cross traffic through the lots to access that intersection. There's a cross-access easement that falls on the property line between Lot 1 and Lot 2, partially on the brewery lot, partially on the proposed office building. That provides a driveway entrance that's intended to serve the brewery, but nonetheless will be available to the office building. And again, the specific language of those are not finalized, and the actually applying the cross-access easement to the drawing has not been accomplished because we're trying to do a lot of things at the last minute. So in that case, the Mylar is not available for us for signature. Anyway, so that's the presentation. Any questions on that part?
Are there any questions from any of the, yes, Mr. Button?
Thank you. When I look at this outlet A of 0.18 acres, why is that not part of Lot 3? It looks like it's a very small piece of property, and
Because that's for the signed parcel, and that is something that's going to be retained by the Redevelopment Commission.
thank you, that's good. And when I look at Lot 3 in no build easement, what does that mean?
Well, as I said, that is where there will be no above-ground structures to be allowed in that area, but beyond the details and the specifics of that easement language is still in being finalized.
But you can put parking there.
But you can put parking and trees and, the landscaping and all that on there.
Is that
Wait, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the 15-foot utility easement, that's only for a sanitary district sewer and nothing else?
I believe that's the only thing that's in there. That was on the original plat, and there was no discussion of relocating that or moving it. They were able to site the building in between the easements.
Is that the sewer coming from Highland?
I believe that is. I mean, you would know that better than I do, Stan.
I think it is.
Yeah, but based on the preliminary site plans we have, they are able to site the building between the utility easement and the no-build zone.
When I look at the no-build easement, we cannot put structures there, but yet we can put trees there? Wouldn't that block the visibility?
Well, I appreciate, I wasn't sure if that was the proper name we should have for it, but that is the language that came out of the agreement between the Redevelopment Commission and BW3s. That is why we're still waiting for the final definition of what it means, but the intent is just to block structures.
And I guess
Parking with some small tree islands would probably work.
with short trees,
Miniature
not tall trees.
Well, it's-
I just want to make that clear, that's all.
Crab apples, those are short.
Or dogwoods. The other question I have is, when I look at this utility easement, and I look at the property lines or the no-build easement line, I'm asking myself, that's about 141, 142 feet, and by the time you take the setbacks out of there, is that a buildable area for somebody?
when you say setbacks in from where?
In the property line in a proposed structure?
Well, the setbacks would only be on the perimeter property lines. So yes, the footprint of the building is proposed to be about 12,000 square feet.
Okay, I'm just raising a point that I'm.
Yeah, I mean, believe me,
I'm thinking this 142 feet is now shrinking down to,
no, I mean,
100
they literally, the building will be, an edge will be on the border of the utility easement, and an edge will be on the border of the no-build zone. It's going to,
Is the building gonna be multi-story?
it's proposed to be a three-story building, total of about 38,000 square feet, so it's about somewhere around 12.5 on each floor, whatever the math comes out to be.
thank you very much.
Any other questions? If there's no further questions, I'm gonna open the public hearing section of the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to comment or ask questions on CP 15-01? There's a woman in the back. Who is that? So I can't see her face?
I don't think she wishes to comment.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to comment? Anyone who wants to comment? I'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Anybody else have any questions? You have a staff report ready to go? Are you gonna read it or just summarize the end of it?
Well, the first part of the staff report is my presentation. Going to the staff recommendation, we have obviously sent the plat out for agency review. No objections were received. And as noted, there are some outstanding items regarding these easements, the definitions that I referred to. However, staff does recommend the Plan Commission grant the preliminary and final approval of the subdivision plat, subject to the staff resolving the outstanding easements, and then preparing the Mylar for signature at a later date. And if the Plan Commission agrees, that the staff requests that the Plan Commission adopt this staff report as its findings of fact.
Do I have such a motion to accept the staff report as findings of fact?
I'll second.
A second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Sam Sutton,
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Juan Moreno,
Yes.
Michael Peter. Yes. Kim White. Yes. Thomas White,
Excuse me, yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
So does this go to council, right?
No. It's preliminary and final approval of the Plan Commission, subject to the resolving of the easements.
So the next motion that we need to make is,
As stated?
Huh?
As stated.
you can say it.
motion.
Because I think everybody's kind of looking around. How do you want it worded? You're always kind of picky about that.
Grant preliminary and final approval of the subdivision plat, subject to staff resolving the outstanding easement issues.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Roger Brock,
Yes.
Sam Sutton,
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris,
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Juan Moreno,
Yes.
Michael Peter.
Yes.
Kim White. Yes. Thomas White,
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
So that completes CP 1501. We move on now to CP 1502, petition of the Hammond Plan Commission to consider the advisability of making a determination of parking requirements for a variable multi-tenant office building for uses not otherwise specified in ordinance 8514 as amended, the zoning ordinance pursuant to TS 20.46.03. Is this for the building going in this complex?
I will explain that in my presentation.
Okay.
And then for the record, the notification requirements were met. It was, in this case, it's just a legal notice. Okay. This is kind of a unique thing that comes out of the zoning ordinance, which is an opportunity for the Plan Commission. In the previous version of the ordinance 4683, there was a similar provision. And the Plan Commission acted on that for the Ophelia Steen Center somewhere around 15 years ago. And this language is being used in the case of a proposed development or a 3-story office building of a 38,000 square feet with 12,000 square foot frontage. However, the provision, by the way it's written, this provision could apply to other office structures that meet this definition. So instead of technically amending the zoning ordinance, we're using this provision to create the parking ratio for a building of this nature that isn't otherwise addressed in the zoning ordinance. Hang on, Bill. All right. So again, the technical question before the Plan Commission is how we go about determining a reasonable parking ratio in this particular circumstance. So as the discussion goes about this theoretical office building, the actual tenant mix of the building is uncertain at this point, and that it could change over time. And one of the concerns of any developer is that if you change the tenant that has a different parking ratio, would that put him in a situation of having to come back before the Plan Commission, or actually, excuse me, come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals and get a variance? So if we predetermine that it's an office building and we use the ratio which is based on the occupants of the building, and he wants to add a medical facility which is based on the number of exam rooms, three parking spaces per exam room, and you didn't anticipate that in the beginning, do you create a situation where there's not enough parking on the property and no physical ability to create more parking because you know what your lot size is? So the potential scenario is that an office building could be 100% general office, could be 100% medical, could be any mix thereof, such as 33% of the building being operating rooms, and possibly up to 33% being retail, and all of those have different parking ratios. So we tried to find a ratio that makes sense. Some of the ratios that I described also require plus employees, and we don't always know the employee mix, or we don't know the employee mix at this time. So, okay, like I said, that's the presentation. So I think there appears to be a question there.
I think you've done a great job. I guess I'm curious as to what that ratio is going to be. Is it going to be one parking space for every 300 square feet?
That will be explained.
Oh. Okay. And then my other question is, you said like similar other buildings. Are you talking about similar like other buildings of 38,000 square feet, or similar mixed-use buildings of this nature?
Similar mixed-use buildings that meet a definition of variable multi-tenant office building.
I think it's a great thing.
Okay. All right. So in looking through all these ratios, you have parking that is based on. I'm sorry. Were there any other questions? Okay. So this is kind of an elaborated recommendation, but it somewhat goes back to making sure we're all on the same page here. Regular retail is one space per every 200 square feet, or sometimes that's called 5 per 1,000 square feet. Like I said, offices is based on occupancy, and until you have the fire marshal determine, what the occupancy is, that's kind of an unknown and tricky thing. Banks are based on one space for every 400 square feet, so you get a lot of these different ratios. So what we thought worked for this particular development, and also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that there's another standard that's being applied in a lot of cases of 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. That's becoming a much more of a common ratio rather than 5. We felt that that was the best ratio that balances between like the 1 for 200, the 1 for 400, the 1 space for, or 3 spaces for every exam room. Also partially when you're in a multi-tenant facility, there's always a possibility that one person will go to more than one thing, so there's a shared parking aspect to it. So staff does believe that a ratio, this is the recommendation, staff does believe that a ratio of 1 space for every 250 gross square feet is adequate to provide parking for the employees in an office situation as well as patron parking, and recommends that the Plan Commission make a determination of that ratio for the variable multi-tenant office building. And then if you agree with the recommendation, that you adopt this report as your findings of fact.
Mr. President, the 250 gross square feet, is that occupiable square footage or habitable square footage?
No, it's really footprint.
Okay, thank you. So if you have an elevator shaft, that's part of your
It is. All of our parking ratios are based on gross, the footprint.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, do we have anyone who'd like to make the motion to adopt the Plan Commission as preliminary findings of fact?
I'll make the motion.
Sorry.
The staff report as, yeah.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Roger Brown?
Yes.
Sam Stotney?
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris?
Yes.
William Hutton?
Yes.
Juan Moreno?
Yes.
Michael Pinker?
Yes.
Kim White? Yes. Thomas White?
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Do we need another motion on this?
Yes, that the Plan Commission does establish a ratio of 1 space for every 250 gross square feet for a variable multi-tenant office building.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
So will this make this a standard now for our zoning?
It will be a standard for something that meets that definition.
So I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Roger Brown?
Yes.
Sam Stotney?
Yes.
Nathaniel Harris?
Yes.
William Hutton?
Yes.
Juan Moreno?
Yes.
Michael Pinker?
Yes.
Kim White? Yes. Thomas White?
Yes.
8 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
That completes CP 1502. Do we have any correspondence? Do we have any commissioners' comments? Mr. Hutton?
No, sir, thank you.
Any staff comments?
Yes, we're dealing with a couple of projects that should be coming before the Plan Commission. I am not sure if one in particular is a potential, well, there's a couple of them that are potentially rezonings, but there is a potential rezoning for property up in, in Central Hammond. But I'm not sure if they're going to make the submission for the March meeting. But definitely, we will have items for the April meeting, and what we probably will be having at a time is a planned unit development. We haven't done those a lot, But if you want to review your zoning ordinance to be a little bit more familiar with planned unit developments, please do so ahead of time.
Okay. Any questions? Any other staff comments?
No.
Public comments? So the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make the motion.
Second.
And a second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Against? Motion passes. Meeting's adjourned.